appreciated. Our intention here is to give out altruistic advice, altruistic guidance to the folks who may not know their African heritage and bring them back home. So we want to leave the exodus out of Western religion and back home so we can contribute to order and have beautiful societies and communities once again. So we got another question that was sent to us. It was based off of the last video that we recorded. And the question was, how do I know if my priest or my priestess is serving a deity or a wayward spirit? And I believe this was a response to the previous video that we did that was based on someone giving advice, was saying, oh, you're cursed, you're cursed. And clearly from our analysis is that this person was doing this or spreading misinformation solely for monetary benefit. So I'm gonna give you a couple of points, about 9 points to find nine quick bullet points to assess that if this person that you're dealing with, what are some telltale signs of a spiritualist, a non-altruistic or egotistical spiritualist, and then from an actual priestess or priest or someone who's trained to study. So we do understand that us here in the diaspora is that we were separated. So I want to bridge that gap, and there's good communities of people here in North America that recognize their lineage, their ancestors led them back to where they are finding ways to institute their culture here in America, because we know that there's certain things that we need for ritual that we can't get from West Africa to bring here to America. We know if the deities are everywhere, then that there should be some remnants of their essence here. And I agree. But then we're bridging the gap between our blood circle there in Nigeria as well, and trying to unify individuals. So even though there may be some spiritualists who are practicing the ancestral culture here preserved for 300 years in North America, they're still pledged in adherence to the traditional customs and norms of African religion. So before we even get started, is that we need to have an understanding of what's the difference between a deity or a wayward spirit, a ajogun, demon, so forth and so on. Now, we don't want to use the word devil or even Satan or Satanist. There's a little bit of truth to that, but one is that we don't have a monotheistic sense of demonology, and some things are true, but we just see things a little bit different, just as it's philosophically inconsistent to call the Arun heaven, because heaven has ethnocentric contingencies that Africans must adhere to enter into their fictional place. We do have a spirit world, but it doesn't work the same way as quote unquote what they call heaven, but that's a whole nother conversation. So we see deities or entities of irrevocable malevolence as these ajogun, as these demons, right? And then you have a deity, which is an Orisha. So it's kind of the same philosophy, is that we have deities that govern a psychological occurrence, a natural occurrence, forces of nature, so forth and so on. So there's a deity of a hill, of lightning, of the ocean, rivers, rocks. There's a deity that possesses and governs the spirit world. There's a deity that possesses different body systems within the human body. There's deities that possess certain types of psychological principles such as unity, harmony, womanhood, herbology, things of that nature. Now, it's the same philosophy with demons or ajogun, sabo, these rebels, to where they would govern and possess things such as jealousy, anger, envy, impatience, hatreds towards men, hatreds towards women. So for an example, there's a big red flag with a lot of individuals saying that they're doing the quote unquote EME practice, or the quote unquote mothers, or they're popularizing witchcraft, not knowing that what they're doing is continuing the process of this quote unquote Lilith kind of energy. The old hag, the succubus, the person who's clothed in black, who has this extreme hatred towards men. And you can see some of that psychological inference in the pathology and the behavior of the people that say that they're doing this practice, and they think they're propitiating the mother, which is really Yamu, but they're not. They're doing things that is almost the antithesis of Yamu's behavior. That's a whole nother conversation. So we know also with deities, as we mentioned in the coffin text of Kamal, when it speaks about Ra creating itself and Ra's cosmology of Anu, and he said that I found no place that I could stand until I put my foundations in Ma'ah. So he was stating that as he was creating himself from the primordial inertness, and the primordial eight are the root of all energy and matter, and in an unformed chaotic state. So Ra's trying to have order and build, but he said there's no place that I could stand until I put my foundations in Ma'ah, which is spiritual law, spiritual order. We know this as the Orisha Odu and the Asheshe Orisha culture, to where Odu is married to Orunmila. Orunmila is Tahuti, this deity of wisdom. So what we're saying is that these deities are founded in law. And if we know this, and so if things questionable, ethical or moral things pop up that are questionable, these should be some signs that these people aren't working with deities, that they're working with these wayward spirits. In the Guan culture, the Guan is one of the ethnicities in Ghana. So there's some entities that are called Suman. So we do know of some people who they say that they're Akan, but more than likely they're Guan, and they work with some of these entities such as Adati Kofi or Nana Surgery. And these entities, and the truthful ones will tell you that these are not Abosom. So in the Akan culture, Abosom is a deity, as we call Orisha, Mteru, Mtetut, and Kemet and Knesset. These are just the titles that we have for deities. So the knowledgeable ones will tell you that Nana Surgery is not a Abosom. He's a Suman. And they're able to differentiate what a Suman is and what an Abosom is. That he was a deified ancestor, a deified person, that they put some pieces together and made this an entity that they call on and that they invoke, right? And it wasn't an Abosom. So people are stating, the clarity that there's a differentiation between these two classes of entities. So with that being said, is that we have to have an eye out to what's a deity, what's not a deity, and what are some things a deity would do what things a wayward entity would do that a deity wouldn't. So one of the first tips that we should kind of be on the lookout is, one, when you're working with people, have a clear idea on who these people are working with. So the person that you should go to should be very clear that they're working with a specific deity. So again, if you come and you see me and you see the white, you see the implements, you may see some other Orisha that are in the house, but you do know that I will be working with Obatala. You know that this is the deity that we are channeling, the only deity that we exclusively work with. Now, not saying that we're not invoking or propitiating and feeding other Orisha, but the only Orisha that will come from me to the client, or the one that I am the ambassador of, is Obatala. But if you're going to other people, and as we discussed on the last video, if they're saying that, I'm a priest of this, I'm a high priest, I'm the high priestess, I'm the high priestess, and they don't tell you who they're working with, that is a red flag. As we stated before, there's no such thing as a generalist. There's no such thing as a priest of this and a priest of that, or just a priest and a priestess, period. Is that you are ordained, you are initiated, you are trained under a particular deity, and everyone heals in a different way. So Shapana would heal, or Obaluaye would heal different from Shango. Shango's practice is different from Yemoja. Yemoja will be different than Olokun. Olokun will be different from Osha Oko. Osha Oko is different from Osha Oba. You're starting to see it. Everybody's different, and there's no one way of getting something done because we're dealing with a different type of energy. So if anybody doesn't say who they're dealing with, or it's it's nebulous, I would automatically use that as a red flag. Another thing is that if they have too many deities, not different icons or shrines that they're invoking or propitiating. This could be an old-fashioned way. A lot of folks will disagree with me. I stated this last time. I do understand that people may feel like they have to get initiated to another deity if there's a life or death situation, or if it comes up during divination. I hear that and I acknowledge it. I'm not saying that I agree with it, but I can understand. But individuals who are getting initiated to several Orisha, they're missing something key to the practice. And especially when we have other people who don't share our bloodline. And this is one thing if we're, African person outside of our lineage, because we have direct blood ties to a certain culture and a certain tradition, and each way is unique. So that's one thing if we were African looking for our own tradition that we last practice. But then we have non-African people, getting into the culture, or they're doing things and working with deities that they're no way related to. And I'm saying this because even within the culture, as a Black person, African person, I am no way related to, let's say for an example, Osain, right? I'm not spiritually related to that deity. I'm not saying I can't go to Osain and ask for help, but I cannot channel, possess, or I can't work with him because I'm no way related to Osain. I do not have access to that Ashe. I'm using that as an example. So when you see so many people that are initiated to more than 4 or 5 Orisha, to me, that's kind of a flag or kind of a warning that it doesn't seem stable, it doesn't seem set. It seems like it's like a miscellaneous approach to healing, to where it really makes you question the relationship and the relationship that they have with this deity. Now, some people say that this is old school stuff or this is new age stuff. From my understanding, not only from the Yoruba perspective, but looking at the Akan perspective in other African traditions, is that there is a such thing as a primary or guardian deity, but also we understand that there's deities that possess your maternal and paternal clan as well. That's just something to take a look out for. Another thing that you can, that's another red flag, is that if you don't give anybody your consent and you're seeing dreams of people attempting to, do ritual, influence you, or if they're walking by, or if you see their name and their image pop up on a cell phone, to me, that's another flag. It seems like some people are trying to influence you against your will. So again, if you have a dream and somebody's in your living room space and they're twirling or they're dancing, look at their facial expression. If they look kind of, shocked, or they look like surprised, they're trying to influence you in your sleep, and they're not working with deities. There may be symbols that your own Orianu, your Akra, your Ka, the personal deity that's seated in your head, there's certain symbols that may be unique to you that communicate spirits of disorder, right? So to me, there's a certain image of rebels that I see, either if it's like clan members, racist white folks, agents or whatever. It's a symbol that is shown to me. And so I would see these images of these people that are expressionless, they're emotionless in the dream state, and they're trying to perpetrate or trying to put on, African clothes, or try to perpetrate African culture. So to me, it's communicating that not only are there physical agents, because we know that there's a lot of individuals that are infiltrating the culture as agents, but also that these are spiritual agents trying to, that are here to attempt to deceive someone, to make them think that they're a deity when they're really not. So if you're seeing some things and you feel like there's other people that are inserted in your dream and it seems kind of odd or whatnot, that's a flag that this may not be, they may not be working with deities. We already discussed the old hag, the succubus, the old woman in white, the old woman in black rather, shadow people, or people where you don't see the whole body, you just see outlets and silhouettes of someone. It's letting you know that there may be somebody else that's trying to influence you. Also, if you check your mental state. So if you feel a little bit anxious after you deal with people, if you have headaches, you feel nervous, you have this feeling of restlessness, or any type of psychological imbalance that was not present before, is letting you know that this may be a presence of another wayward entity that's not a deity. If you feel angered, if you feel really sensitive after rituals, like you feel really just annoyed and angered and just so hypersensitive to where a lot of things are getting on your nerves, it's another presence, that another entity is around you that is not a deity. So take a look out for that. You should feel relaxed. You should feel stress free when you're meditating and you're doing your breathing techniques and you're doing your rituals. You should feel like you're almost about to enter the sleep state or the dream state. It should be that kind of feeling relaxed. But if you're really, a lot of things are pumping and you're just super agitated, I would really check to see what things are around or what things are somebody giving you or exposing you to, because it may not be a deity. So that's one thing that you want to keep in mind. Another thing is, if someone tells you that whatever this deity, this entity says you have to do, it's a red flag. So there's some Santeria priestess, and when I was coming up, I was looking for a divination, and so she said something like, well, here I have a Shango here, and we're going to divine to Shango, and whatever Shango says to do, you have to do. And to me, that didn't seem right to me. Just the fact of saying, whatever he says to do, I have to do. I didn't feel comfortable with that before I can even articulate the rest of the experience there. One, I ended up learning that she was not initiated to Shango, and she was initiated to another Orisha. So I would think, well, why weren't you divining to that Orisha that you're initiated to? But also we know that the divination part is that the Ebo is not obligatory. And I'm not saying don't do it. You always do your Ebo if you're seeking a divination. But if you feel like you're getting some advice and someone wants you to do something that seems questionable, there is no ties to you to do that. Now, you opened up a spiritual space. But if there's someone who is not a trustworthy diviner, you have no obligation to complete a ritual. If you think they're doing something fraudulent, unethical, you can leave, give them the money, it's done, and you go to someone else to help you clean it up and close that space and get a proper divination done. So that is another flag to me, is that when people say that, whatever you have to do, if they make you feel obligated to do something and you don't know what it is that's another flag. Something else as well is people who have too much emphasis on Ogun, talismans, charms, and rituals. So there's a lot of people who would, if you have a problem, they would say, okay, well, if you got this issue, and this may not be 100% correct, but I do know there's some chances where this happens more so, where this scenario happens more so than when it doesn't. Is that if someone said, okay, you have a problem with your wife, okay, let me get you this charm right here, and she's gonna act right, and she's gonna come back to you. You just you put this on your parts, and next time you do it with her, she's gonna be hooked on you. There may be some things to where a woman would get a charm, and they wrap it up like, okay, your husband will never leave you. There may be some things to where people will put medicine inside of their bodies. They'll stuff their body parts with certain types of herbs or concoctions to have this power over women, have this power over men. And if it's too much emphasis on the talismans and charms, and these things are efficacious, very much so, that's a problem. You should be listening to the adherents of the deity. Now, if they, divine, and there's many different ways of divining. There's water readings. You can look inside of glass. You could, throw the kairos. You can throw the Obata. If their possession is legitimate, there's many different ways. But if they're not consulting a deity, how do they know what's best for you? Who's to say that you're supposed to stay with this person? You could be in the, and as we said previously, you could be investing a whole lot of time and energy in places and people that you don't even need to be affiliated with. And this is the whole, if you ask me, the whole reason why they say Ifa is more efficacious than medicine. So I think that gets lost a lot by a lot of Babalaos and Iyanifas, and they attempt to take hold of the practice. But what it's saying is that if you did not consult or have any wisdom or divine, you may be wasting time giving medicine out in scenarios that you don't know if it should be avoided or not. So that's another problem. If they're putting so much emphasis on charms and talismans, and a lot of people act like they're Baba Larishas or Iya Larishas when really they're just, Adunses, herbalists, medicine people who just do a guild that's not tied to a deity, they could be leading you in the wrong direction. Something else that we hear that a lot of folks don't talk about is the hypersexuality that's in the culture. So if anyone asks you that, if for you to appease Shango, you have to have sex with me, and it doesn't matter if you're in the culture or not, you should automatically know if anybody's asking for your sacred essence, is that it's fraudulent. So that's wrong. There's a lot of men who are preying on women. They're using their psychic projection to initiate rape before it even happens, and somebody just magnetically drawn to somebody and they're projecting their will onto them, and next thing you know, this person is a victim to this individual. There's a lot of women who are training up young girls. I'm forgetting the term, but they're basically training up the youth, and they're pushing them to be sex slaves. Women as well in the culture, right? And so it's, some people would say, oh, if you're initiated to Oshun, that means you're destined to be a sex worker, which is beyond blasphemous. There are some other women who would say, if Oshun drops down on you, and then if we're at a bembe or whatever, then you could, if you start twerking on another person that's not your spouse, then, that's okay. That's Oshun's energy. It's accepted. Or when you see the bembes and, women are dressed very, I guess, provocatively, that's outside of the cultural mandates. We get it that American culture is different than African culture. I'm not saying what's wrong or what's right, but I'm saying if things are inconsistent with the culture, especially sexually, is that's another flag to you. And I can't speak 100% for Oshun. I know what Obatala tells me. However, when individuals are saying that Oshun is a goddess of love and sex and so forth, is that you can tell right there that they're not worshiping Oshun. Now, they're worshiping Aphrodite, Venus, or whatever European construct that they then crystallized and made, and they're passing down throughout time. Is that they're crafting their own deities and their own demons to make people worship, and that's not Oshun. I have read over 700 essays in Ifa or Eridelagoon, and not once have I came across one that promoted hypersexuality specifically in regards to Oshun, right? Oshun is a deity. Now, she does deal with that magnetic attraction. Oshun deals with harmony and balance. Oshun is bringing together many different aspects and to have a harmonious interaction. So when we see, dancers and singers, hair braiders, politicians, diviners, we're seeing Oshun's energy, and even the ritual act of procreation, of intercourse. That's Oshun. It's bringing forth opposite things so we can use men and women collectively together to enforce order to give birth to a child, husband and wife. It's not order having sex with several different people. There's no order and balance in that, right? That's not Oshun. So when you have different strands of hair and you're braiding them together to have a harmonious or a beautiful piece of work in cosmetology, that's Oshun. So when you have many different people experiencing many different situations and environments, but you want people to collectively work together through divination, that's Oshun. When you see, different strokes, different hues of color, and you put it together as a beautiful work of art, that's Oshun, right? But she is using that sensual, magnetic energy to create order. So when people are saying that they're worshiping Oshun and they're just proselytizing or just advertising hypersexuality, how is that Oshun when you're not creating balance between one another? You're just projecting your sexuality. So you can tell these people are not initiated to Oshun, one, or they're just out of whack or out of balance with Oshun's energy. So if it's a too much promotion of hypersexuality, that's a red flag. One of the last things that I will say is that if there's too much emphasis on personal advice and not letting the deity speak, that's something else you should be on a lookout for. When we're divining, is that you're not asking the diviner for their personal advice, and half the time you're not even supposed to tell the diviner why you came here. You just come, you speak to your shells, to the 16 kairos, you speak to the I King, you could speak to the Obi Obata, the kola nut, you give them your concerns, and then you give it to the diviner. So the diviner, through the divination process, is that they're going to generate a numeric code, and through this code, certain events are tied to this code, and they're going to come and chant a story, and they're going to tell you what is going on with this event. They're going to tell you what some things that you should avoid, what things should you do, and then this is the way for order. Now, we see a whole lot of personal advice or advice that's only shade in one perspective, and that's a problem. So if you have advice that's consistently dealing with relationship issues, or they only speak about this, battle of the sexes, you can tell that this person did not heal from their own trauma, their own issues, and they're projecting their negativity on anybody who has their ear open. If you hear people who are only focused on, look at the stuff that black men doing. Black men ain't this. They dusty. They ain't doing what they supposed to do. You did not heal from that. If you have a comment that's always talking about, the same thing in reverse, like, why are these black women, why they got problems, they can't do this, and just things that are so low vibration, you're projecting your own energy upon that. Now, as a priest or a priestess, a diviner, as a healer, you know that you will deal with several different types of scenarios. Dealing with senior citizens, dealing with people with mental disabilities, people are dealing with handicaps, people are dealing with physical handicaps, people dealing with depression, childhood issues, health, even with raising kids or parenting. There's so many things that people should talk about, and of course, yes, you have the specialization, but there's so many things that are going on in the world, and if anybody's advice is personally and constantly shaded by one perspective, you can tell that these people aren't working with the deity. They're working with, their own personal issues. And then these other entities love that. So just as we stated before, we had Orisha that govern natural phenomena. And then you have wayward entities that govern dysfunctional phenomena. So, if it's envy, sloth, anger, procrastination, jealousy, hate, anger, avarice, greed, lust, hypersexuality, and this is the type of behavior that you see from these people, oh yeah, those are some things that make you question, who are these people serving and what energy are they working with? So please, y'all, keep your eyes open. Don't be in a rush to hurry up and arrive. The most beautiful part about this culture is coming around and it's making a full circle to where you are developing yourself. You're having a relationship with your own Ori Anu. You're having your relationship with your ancestors, and just respect the journey and take your time. Ask your ancestors for guidance, for them to, and we know the Egungun, they make the environment straight. They make the society straight. So ask your Egungun, your ancestors, to lead you, to show you, to guide you a way of harmony, of wisdom, of balance. Have them to confirm your path. Have them to confirm, what deity followed you here to this earth. Ask your Ori Anu, your Ka, your Akra, to repel impure thoughts, to repel negative thought projections that are inconsistent with your life's function, and just ask for wisdom and knowledge above any type of material gain. So I hope this was helpful. Thank you again for the viewer who gave us this question. It is something that is extremely key, and it's something that we all should be aware of. And I'll end, as I said in a previous cast, is that everything unseen is not divine. Do not become spellbound and speechless and easily amazed when people are receiving information or they're doing spiritualist things. You see the gems, the crystals, you hear the pseudo deep talk. Let all that stuff go to the side. Do not be impressed with that. You don't know who these people are talking to and what these things are asking of these individuals. Do not be so mystified of psychical energy. Just because someone hears something, and it may be something that is true about you, that doesn't mean that they're dealing with a deity. So if someone says, oh, hey, well, I see this coming, and, I know that, you're thinking about this job or whatever, is that they can be reading your personal atmosphere right here. And it's not like they're working with a deity, but start to use your discernment and see, okay, who are they channeling? Who are they working with? Check out their personal character. Look at their reputation. Look at their references. Look at the people who know them so you can make the proper decision for yourself. Do not become mystified by lower level psychic power, and you can open yourself up to a world of hurt, trying to hurry up and arrive and hurry up and try to find somebody to lead you in the right directions. I'm not knocking on tarot. Of course, that's not African. There's many different ways to divine, but there's a specific type of people who are spreading so much toxic advice, toxic practice, and they're leading people in the wrong direction. And these folks are having extreme psychiatric, psychological, and spiritual issues that may leave them jaded for life. If you have any more questions, please feel free. You could respond to us. Follow us on Instagram at Obatala Answers, and send us a message, and we will answer your question live on air. And until next time, Ariel, Odabo, blessings to all of you.